Okay, it's just about noon, so I'll get started. Welcome and thanks for joining us today for our May Lunch and Learn. I'm glad everybody could be here. I'm Julie Brown. I'm the Raptor Migration and Programs Director at the Hawk Migration Association. And I'm going to be facilitating things today with my colleague, Kat Lauer, who is the Engagement and Communications Coordinator. And we're very excited to welcome J.F. Therrien, Senior Scientist and Graduate Study Director at Hawk Mountain. This is a great time of year to talk kestrels. It's kestrel monitoring season. I'm seeing lots of them here in New Hampshire, back on territory, copulating, starting nests. And you may remember a Lunch and Learn talk from JF a few years back, talking about his snowy owl research. He's a busy guy at Hawk Mountain. I'm glad he's going to be chatting with us today about kestrels. So before we get started, I'm going to mention a little bit about HMA if you're not familiar with our organization. We are a nonprofit that provides support to the raptor migration monitoring network across the Americas. And we promote education and conservation of migratory raptors. And we archive migration count data in our database hawkcount.org. We're also an active partner in the RPI, the Raptor Population Index, a program that produces conservation assessments and population trend analyses from those migration counts. So you can learn more if you want to at hawkmigration.org. We're going to be recording today as usual. We're live streaming on Facebook, and you can view this or any of our other past Lunch and Learn programs on our Facebook page or on our website. You can scroll to the What's New section or look under our Events and Tours tab. We are muting everybody today just to avoid distraction, but we'd love you to connect with us. So use the chat window, ask a question, make comments. Kat will be monitoring the chat, and she will ask your questions to JF at the end of the program. And let us know where you're tuning in from today. And if you don't already receive our e-newsletter, you can put your name and email address in the chat and I can sign you up for that. That goes out a couple times a month and is a good way to stay up to date on what's going on, news and events. So I will turn things over to Kat to introduce JF.
Thanks, Julie. Hi, everybody. It's my absolute pleasure to introduce our speaker today. J.F. Therrien grew up in Shellbrook, Canada, about 30 minutes from the border with Vermont. He has a bachelor degree in biology from the University de Sherbrooke and a master's and PhD from the University Laval in Canada. JF has been the senior scientist and graduate study director at Hawk Mountain Sanctuary since 2011, and he is working on various aspects of raptor conservation science, such as satellite tracking of rough-legged hawks, turkey vultures, and snowy owls. He is also monitoring raptor migration around the globe and currently monitoring American Kestrel breeding populations, which we are so fortunate to hear about today. Thank you so much, JF. Please begin when you're ready.
All right, well, thank you so much. As I said just before the talk started, I can't see anyone's face, but I thank everyone for joining. I'm assuming when I stop sharing my screen, I'll be able to see people's face, and I cannot see the chat as well. So if you cannot hear me or there's anything, just speak up and I'll I'll keep my my earphones. But yeah, it's a pleasure for me to talk today about kestrels. It's like the introduction Kat and Julie mentioned, it's the right time to talk about them. Right now we're monitoring a bunch of kestrel nest boxes and we're not the only one to do so. So Hawk Mountain has a long history of monitoring kestrels. For those of you not familiar, I'm assuming there's not a lot of you not familiar with Hawk Mountain. The Hawk Mountain is a place where 90 plus years ago, hunters would gather on top of the hill to shoot migrating raptors. Nowadays, I mean, thanks to the vision and the fearless efforts of conservationists at the time, and I'm thinking Rosalie Edge, and then Maurice Brune and Irma Brune, who became curator on the sanctuary. Now, the Hawk Mountain is a place where we actually witness and enjoy raptor migration. This is, instead of shooting range, now it's a place for binoculars and scopes. And we have lots of school groups come in, lots of enthusiasts come in to help and count hawks as they migrate over the sanctuary. Now, the sanctuary, at the beginning of the sanctuary, 1934, Maurice Brune set up to count the raptors that were passing through and making notes of the protection that the sanctuary was offering to those birds. A few years after he started tallying all those birds, well, he realized, and the scientific community realized, well, that's a long-term monitoring scheme right now happening, and we can assess population trend with these. So back in 1934, we had the first records of American Kestrel migrating over the sanctuary, and the monitoring has keep going since then during migration. Now we're lucky to also are able to monitor them during the breeding season, which we use for that nest box program that was set up a long time ago. 1954, the first few boxes were erected around the sanctuary. I was not there at the time. It was, again, visionary former curator Alex Nagy, who thought, oh, let's see if, I mean, a cavity nesting falcon could just use a man-made nest box. And so he began erecting nest boxes around the sanctuary in open country farmlands, and realized right away, well, they are using it. And it grew. The program grew successfully. At the beginning, there were about a dozen nest boxes. The program now is monitoring annually 128 of them. Some of them still at the very same place they were in 1954. So a very awesome network of nest boxes around Hawk Mountain. And this kind of network, this kind of setup using nest boxes have been used tremendously from all the way from Canada, but all the way down to Argentina. So the whole continent has now monitoring schemes for kestrels, which, in addition to the migration counts, to Christmas bird counts, to eBird, the nest box program allows us to have a look under the hood. You just look under the top of the box, or you open the side door and you can see what's going on. Which box is occupied, how many eggs are laid, how many of them hatch, and how many of them will fledge. So right now, I'm just giving a quick update of what's going on. Right now, we're past the midpoint of May. We're monitoring right now 53 active nests of American Kestrels from our 128 boxes, which is a good year. In the recent 10 to 15 years, that's the highest number. American Kestrels, as you will see, have been slowly but steadily declining, especially in the eastern part of the continent. So we're happy with the 53 we're monitoring right now. So right now, most of the pairs have eggs. Full clutch is typically 5 eggs. We often have the few exceptions, the outliers, the 6 or the 4, sometimes 3. But most of the time, the average laying, the clutch size is 4.6 or 4.7. Then, as we're starting to see right now, is the hatching time. So, as you can see on the picture, it's not a video, but on the picture, you see at the bottom egg, it's already open up. You see the beak of the little kestrels, and you see at least 2 or 3 other eggshells that are starting to crack. One thing that's very amazing when you get to see a box at that stage is that you can hear them from inside the egg starting to peep and chip. And the parents hear it and they become very attached to it. They're sometimes they will stay in the box even though you're opening the side of the box to see what's going on. They just look at you and you see in their eyes they're not going to move. So they're very attached to those eggs and to become chicks at the time. And then late May, early June, we're going to get to see little furry balls just like that. This is a clutch of 5. You can't really tell what head is attached to what body, but they're typically staying close together until they're 10 to 12 days old. When they get bigger, and they grow fast. So if incubation lasts 4 weeks, 28 days, the time from hatching to fledgling is about the same. So 4 more weeks and they're flying out of the box. Sometimes it takes 30 days for them to fly out, but sometimes at day 27, they're already flying out. So very fast growth rate for American Kestrels. And this is the kind of thing we see when we visit a box in mid-June when they're 3 weeks old. They're getting their flight feathers. There's still a lot of down feathers you can see in the picture, but you can already see that they're going to be ready to fly out of the box in about a week. So in the picture, I know the microphones are muted, but you can tell definitely male and female. So even at the chick stage, just before they fledge, when we go and bend them, you can see on the left we have a female, on the right a male, bluish wing parts compared to the more rufous and barred wings of the female. And this is a fully grown chick just about to fledge out of the box. I think we estimated that one to be 27 days old. So we put it back in the box, and then a few days later it was flying around. Starting in the 70s, again, not me, but people before me, I'm thinking Bob and Sue Robertson's, people who have been banding quite a lot of kestrels at Hawk Mountain, starting to band systematically all the chicks that were produced, and sometimes you get to band a few adults depending on research projects. We've used also color banding to be able to identify individuals from a distance. Now, as I said, we take a peek inside the box because we use all sorts of tools to do so. One of them being a nest camera that's attached to the roof inside the box, to the roof of the box, and it looks down on the bird as they start building their nests and have their eggs, and then the hatchlings as they feed. So you can assess parental behavior, incubation, attendance, the difference between male and female, food provisioning, and you can as well assess diet diversity and diet provisioning rate. I think I have a video, hoping it's going to work. It worked yesterday when we tried it, but this is the kind of thing we see. So very cute behavior. Right now, you see the eggshells are still around. The chicks, for those of you who were able to see them before the male kind of went back on top of them, a very small chick. So a hatchling, this is hatchling day for these chicks. They're just hatched overnight, and then we got to see this footage that following morning. And then other tools we use, this is a camera, it's a GoPro camera that's actually attached on the side of the box. So birds get used to seeing them. We attach those cameras either inside the box or outside the box before the season starts. So when the kestrels show up and start settling in for nesting, I mean, the whole setup is already there. So it doesn't affect them or scare them. And you get to see great behavior, again, food provisioning and diet diversity. Hoping that's going to work. So that's a female coming back to the nest. I don't know if you were able to see it. It brought back, I could let you guess what it is. You can write it in the chat. Otherwise, I can just give you the answer. We had to look at it maybe 40 times before we all agreed on what it was. So it goes fast. I have another video I'll show you next. This again goes fast. There's going to be 2 food provisioning events. Pay careful attention and you'll be able to see what's going on. And that's one, and then there's another one coming in. That's the hardest we've been arguing about. So just as a hint, the first video showed a mammal. It was the lower half of what is it? I forgot the name. A small mammal, and then this video showed first the lower half of a sparrow, and then a large insect, which was a dragonfly. So you see quite a bit of diversity when you start doing these monitoring and using the cameras.
Yeah, we
Now,
have some guesses in the chat.
oh, I revealed the answers already. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, did you? Sorry. Well,
No, I just, yeah, go ahead.
someone guessed vole for the first one, dragonfly for the last, and frog. Are any
It
of
was, yeah, it could have been a frog. We've seen frogs, but it was a sparrow, the second one. The first one was a chipmunk, half of a chipmunk,
Wow.
the lower half of it. Again, those videos we had to sit down and look at them about 25 times before you can actually all agree on what it is, because they're going fast. But I think we're pretty confident with our answer, although we'll never know for sure. But thanks for guessing. Now, other picture we get when we put together migration counts, those are trends from all the places where we have long-term monitoring migration counts. And you see that there's a lot of arrows pointing down. The black arrows are significant trends, and the dash arrows are non-significant trends. And the longest, the arrow means the steeper the decline or the increase. And in this case, we see a lot of down pointing arrows that are significant. So seems to be a decline happening over the continent. I know this paper is 15 or 16 years old, but some of those trends are still going on as we speak, especially in the eastern part of the country. At Hog Mountain, this is the kind of picture we have. So dating back from even before the 70s, we get a slowly but steady decline of about 2% annually. So 2% is not a lot, but when you add up every year 2%, that means quite a bit over time. So this is, of course, reasons for concerns. We've been wondering about this decline for years. We've been collaborating now with people all over the country to assess the causes of the decline. And as I said, it's a big project, it's an ambitious project where we try to put together all the pieces of the puzzle. There's several hypotheses, and we're trying to assess which one has the main impact. Being contaminant, we're measuring contaminant that can be found in the bloodstream of kestrels and in their prey items. We're looking at disease. Of course, there's West Nile virus, there's avian influenza right now, and there could be others as well. So we're on the lookout for these. We're working with a vet team at UPenn, University of Pennsylvania, where we can actually send every dead kestrel that is found by conservation agents, either at airports or roadkills. So we're taking the most out of a dead kestrel to assess, do they have contaminant or do they have disease? We're also measuring the competition with other species. For those of you who have nest boxes for kestrels, I'm sure you have had to deal with starlings. Starlings are an invasive exotic species from Europe. They use cavities and they're very feisty over those cavities. So they use cavities that kestrel could use. And so when competition is that fierce, sometimes kestrel don't have the resources, in this case a cavity, to nest. So that becomes an issue for them. We're also looking at intragill predation. There were hypotheses about an increase in accipiter hogs, such as a Cooper's hog, which doesn't target kestrels, but can take a kestrel once in a while. How is that affecting kestrels on the bigger picture? Is that trivial, or is it a significant impact for kestrel population? We're looking at habitat, changes in agricultural practices, diet of kestrel. We know kestrels at several stages of their life cycle, they rely on different prey items, we believe, or we think, we have an hypothesis that young kestrels rely quite a bit on the large insects, such as grasshoppers or dragonflies, as they fledge and disperse out of the natal territory. So one project we're trying to set up is to assess how much do they rely on those large insects and how available are those large insects compared to 30 years ago when agricultural practices were different. We're measuring survival as well, both adults and youngs. We're looking at seasonal survival, try to assess when in their life cycle are they the most vulnerable and where the survival rate is the lowest. And of course, we're timing this and looking at reproduction rate and see if there's a decline in the number of chicks produced per nest or per box over time. And overall, we're looking as well at major global change, such as climate change over the long run, to see if that's affecting kestrels in the long run. We have this ongoing project. It started in 2021, where we connected with people from all across the Eastern Flyway, but then it expanded towards Central, Midwest, and then Western part of the US and Canada. We have partners as well. This photo doesn't show the whole span of partners, but we're lucky to have partners among the group working from universities. We're taking grad students and professors. We have veterinarian on the team, government agencies, and NGOs as well, spanning several states and provinces. Here's a picture. Dr. Mello, she was a PhD student not too long ago, looking at survival of both adults and young. She monitored quite some nests. She did a lot of tracking, sampled blood for lots of those birds, and sent to necropsy several birds as well to assess survival rate and contamination level. Now, the nestbox program that we have allow us to assess, like I said, survival rates, reproduction rate, all of these is possible because we have access to the bird during their breeding season. We can actually trap them and follow individuals quite precisely. And of course, we look at every item in the reproduction rate. So is nestbox occupancy the same as it used to be? Do they have the same success? Do they fledge the same amount of chicks that they did 30 years ago? How is habitat influencing reproduction success and the timing of it? Are they changing timing to match it with the greening up, which is happening a little earlier with climate change? And then we're putting that in relationship with the diet and survival rate. Now, diet analysis, that's a very tedious work. We're looking into pellets. This picture shows a field assistant, an undergrad from Cedar Crest. She's smiley because she's done, because it's a lot of work. But she found all sorts of great things, lots of bones, insects, parts, but as well some fascinating things, just like this baby turtle that was found in a pellet, in a kestrel pellet, or a bat wing that the kestrel preyed upon. In addition to that, we monitoring nests from nest boxes, but we're trying as well to assess natural cavities. How available are they, and how successful are kestrels using natural cavities? Sometimes a natural cavity just like that looks great, and then a few weeks later, it turns into a raccoon's place. So obviously, that kestrel didn't succeed that year in that natural cavity. And that's part of competition that we're measuring. Other things that we found in our nest boxes, which is never dull. So you go up to a box, you expect to see kestrels, and then you get a full clutch of screech owls sleeping very well. Even though I opened the box, you can bend the chicks and they're barely waking up. Other things we found in nest boxes is this snake. Sometimes you get surprises. And so you see, this is a colleague of mine, a former trainee at Hawk Mountain, who took the picture. When you open the box from a ladder, your face is right next to the box, and he holds his phone. So the snake is kind of close. Anyway, that was That was a little bit of fun and excitement we had that day. Other than that, we, like I said, color band them, track them sometimes with telemetry devices, such as you see on the picture. It's a small backpack. It weighs less than 2 grams, so it's very, very light, and it allows us to keep track of kestrels in their habitat, seeing where they go, where they feed, how long they survive, and what could be the cause of mortality. So we have people tracking them down with receivers, and sometimes you get the unfortunate sight of predation. It doesn't happen often, but in the wintertime, there seems to be a lot of interactions between accipiter hawks and kestrels. We're also studying the effect of climate change. It is changing. You have warmer summer and fall, and that in some cases, it delays fall migration. In some other cases as well, it could speed up spring migration, and birds might come to their breeding grounds earlier in the year. So this is one thing we did. We looked at, whoops, sorry, I went too fast. The changes in phenology, how are raptors reacting to a warming climate? We see that kestrels don't change their spring arrival dates in the eastern part of the flyway, but they're delaying their fall departure. Other things we're doing is to look at habitat selection. There's been a lot of studies done with American Kestrel at Hawk Mountain and with colleagues, looking at survival rate, site fidelity for Kestrel wintering in Florida, which seems to be one of the major destinations for Kestrels from Pennsylvania. We're looking at predation by accipiter hawks, West Nile virus, abundance, occurrence, and all kind of results from long-term monitoring. We're also the most recent one is looking at juvenile and adult survival rates in American Kestrel through the annual cycle. So every season. So is it higher in spring versus in the fall, and so on. Another paper that was out just a year and a half ago was to look at the competition between starlings and kestrels. So one of the main results is here on the graph. So I don't know if you can see my arrow on the screen, but I'll try to explain it without the arrow. Basically, this is the number of occupied nest boxes by any other species. The low line that's kind of flat at the bottom is looking at any other species, not starling, not kestrel. So screech owls, snakes, squirrels, mice, bluebirds, all of the above. Some of them, we have a low percentage of the boxes every year that is occupied by other species. Over time, that occupancy has remained fairly stable. Some year you got a few more, some year you got a few less, but more or less over time, since the mid-90s, it has stayed stable. One thing that's been increasing is the middle slope, the gray round circle, which is the number of European starlings using the boxes. So we see a steady increase in the number of starlings using those boxes. And at the same time, you see the top line, the black round circles. This is occupancy by American kestrels. And that's been slowly declining, and it mirrors the increase in European starlings. So there's a strong competition in the fight for cavities, which is limited resources. We saw that kestrels using a box where starlings were around, were trying to use or have been going in and out. We see that those kestrels tend to have a reduced reproduction rate, so they fail more often, or they have reduced clutch size. They're not able to raise as many fledglings as boxes where there's no starlings interacting with the kestrel. So pretty interesting result that we expected, but it kind of shows with the nest box monitoring that we do. Now, the most recent thing that I want to put some attention is the grooming behavior. We've done an experiment a few years ago when we provided some additional food. We supplemented some boxes to see how the parents or the chicks would grow faster. Turns out the parents compensate by feeding their chicks less themselves because we were providing the food. So we were a bit disappointed that our experiment didn't work out that well, but a colleague of us from Utah suggested and formulated the hypothesis that actually the adult kestrel might be benefiting from this in that they can spend more time grooming and cleaning and preening themselves. So one thing they notice is that the more, I mean, there's a strong relationship between grooming time and survival. And they did that in American Kestrel. So it's not a straight line. It shows that there's a sweet spot, a nice window of time spent grooming that translate into higher survival. So birds that didn't groom much have a low survival rate. Birds that groom quite a lot have a low survival rate, but birds that can groom quite a bit of time, but not too much, seems to have the highest survival rate, at least in one subtropical island. So right now we're actually mimicking this study here in Pennsylvania. We are providing some boxes with additional food and see how the parents react to that. And if at the end they actually have a better body condition, lower parasite load, and ultimately higher survival rate and reproduction success. So we have the two grad students right here. They're hard at work. They have this portable lab that for each kestrel that we ban, they can look at parasite load. They'll look at blood parasites as well. And so this is ongoing right now as we speak. So no fresh results with this, but in a year or two, we'll get some more coming up. So I'll wrap up here. I want to mention this is a project led by Hawk Mountain. I'm very proud to be part of. At Hawk Mountain, we have internship and graduate program opportunities if you're interested. And I'll stop with a slide for next month, the program, the Lunch and Learn in June, which is going to be about Costa Rica. So I'll stop sharing my screen. Is that the time to do so?
You can leave it.
You can,
oh,
yeah,
sorry.
you can leave it up through the questions if you want, JF.
All right.
Yeah, so we have quite a few questions, and please feel free to add more as people kind of think of them. The first question is from Kathleen. She's wondering, based on the egg photos that you had, if the parent birds carry the eggshells out of the nest.
Yes, they seem to do so, or just by trampling on them. But we never find any eggshell in pellets. So I think we believe, yes, the kestrel will take them out.
Great. And then Natalie wants to know, is the disease testing of the deceased kestrels only being done on the East Coast, or is that done across the West Coast as well, or the West?
We've had some blood sampling coming from the West Coast, but the necropsy is not done just basically because of transportation issues. It's not easy to send a frozen bird across long distances, but I know there are labs and vet lab and people who can necropsy birds out west. So it's not an issue of not having the facility. We've been running them here in the East in Pennsylvania because it's easy to get the birds to the lab in a short time frame when kestrels are frozen.
Great. And then Kathleen wants to know, do you know how large a habitat kestrels will need to breed?
Yeah, so it's a very good question. Our colleagues from Virginia, including Joe Kalowski, he's just about to release. He's been tracking breeding kestrels with transmitters, and he can tell that male and female have, similar but different home ranges. That goes about of a radius. I think the radius is about 500 meters to a kilometer in size.
Wow.
So
Um,
it's no, it's not big. It's short. So for 95% of their time, they're in that very localized radius around the nest box.
and is it, this is my question, but is it that they want one field or do they need like multiple different fields or,
I guess they will go with being able to make days needs. So if a field or a portion of a field provides enough, that should be enough. We've seen just anecdotal observations. We've seen some places where nestlings and adults from several nest boxes congregate and all feed. And so from a vantage point, you can count 9 to 11 kestrels in July because those feel and the habitat seems to be very productive. So depending on what's available for them, they'll have smaller, shorter, or larger home ranges. But as long as they can make days needs, they'll stay in that perimeter.
wow. So, and then Stephen wants to know what was the snake species found in the nest box?
I think it was a black rat snake, which is not venomous. It just happened to be there. It still makes you kind of, it kind of surprises you when you open the box.
Absolutely. Um, I think this is Julie's question. You mentioned your partners along the East Coast. Is there communication with other monitoring programs across the continent? And is there any kind of shared database?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have a very collaborative network of people studying kestrels. And this is not only limited to the Eastern Flyway, it's across North America. There's also a nice program. It was designed at the Peregrine Fund. Now it migrated over to Cornell, the Nest Watch program, where you can log in and download and upload your observation from your nest boxes. That includes kestrels, but all other species using nest boxes. But there's a kestrel tab on that website for kestrel nest box data.
Great. And then Grant would like to know, has a kestrel key factor analysis been done to determine which growth stage the most mortality occurs for
Yeah,
American?
so that's a very good question. We've been lucky and I'm grateful to be partnering with a lot of people on different projects. Right now, we're trying, as you said, as you mentioned, trying to assess which one of those things have the most impact. And it seems to be varying across regions and across life stages. Right now, it seems, according to survival analysis, we did in technical terms, an IPM integrated population model. We're using uh, data on bending from the bird bending lab for kestrels. We're trying and we're able to assess when is survival declining compared to the rest of the life cycle. It seems to be pointing out that juvenile mortality from fall going into winter is a very critical time. This is the index that has been reduced and declining over time. Now, there are several causes or factors causing kestrel to die in the fall, especially the young ones. And this is what we're trying to refine as we speak. So, is it dying because of undernutrition? And we're trying to assess how is the grasshoppers or big insects linked to young birds' survival. And we're looking at habitat use as well. So there's still a bunch of things that we need to test, but yes, we're working towards that.
Yeah. Um, Jeer would like to know, can you address the ramification of proposed elimination of the bird banding lab?
Well, I mean, those kind of projects have been going on for decades. They're allowing us to draw some of those conclusions. So, of course, it doesn't sound like a good news to me. Like I said, I just mentioned the IPM model we're doing relies on data collected by the bird banding lab. So, having access and able to work and study birds with this empowers us. So, I think it's a good thing to have.
I'll
Absolutely.
I'll I just wanted to jump in, Kat, and say that there's a virtual rally happening tomorrow. I just put the link in the chat. There's a group of conservation NGOs and researchers that are organizing a virtual rally in support of the bird banding lab. So I just put that link in. I think there's like 1.5 million people registered. If people are interested, it's a free online Zoom event.
That's amazing. Um, Natalie would like to say, and also have a question, has a question. There have been several banner years for high numbers of kestrel migration here at Dinosaur Ridge Hawkwatch in Denver. Are there significant nest box projects in Texas and Colorado, for example, that could be helping with the Western kestrel populations?
Yeah, that's a very good question. We do know of programs out west. I don't know how many boxes are helping out to produce those kestrel that you're seeing, but one thing we've noticed is one of my first slides showing a graph of declines across a continent. It seems to be the decline seems to be slowing down in the west for sure. So there seems to be even a rebound of some of the kestrel population. So obviously hearing that some of those hawkwatch sites are seeing those high pushes is very good.
Yes, I agree. It's great. So Dennis wants to know, does the invasive starling species impact other species of birds as they have kestrels?
Yes, obviously numerous cavity nesting species. Kestrels don't fight with starlings a whole lot beside the cavities, but some other species will fight both for the cavities and the resources, the food resources. So obviously, the more starlings you have, the fewer native, especially cavity nesting species. There, many of them are impacted. Yes.
Well, that's all the questions from the chat right now. I just want to say thank you so much. This is super interesting, and we just love all the work you're doing for Kestrels. Yeah, it's just great. So I'm going to hand it back to Julie.
Okay, thanks, Kat, and thanks, JF. Yes, I'll agree with Kat completely. That was fabulous, and thank you for all that you're doing for kestrels, such a vulnerable species, and hopefully better years ahead. It's such an impressive database that you have of monitoring at Hawk Mountain, really. And we wish you the best of luck with the nesting season this year. Um, as far as next month, as the slide you just saw described, we're going to be learning about a new Hawkwatch site in Costa Rica, Ecovita, on June 18th. And they've been counting since 2022. And they're located kind of in the north central part of the country. I had a chance to visit them about a year ago. And if anybody's interested or planning on going to the Raptor Research Foundation meeting in Costa Rica this fall, that would be a great opportunity to visit this Hawkwatch. So registration is coming soon for this event. I will also mention that Raptorathon season is still happening for another week or so. Teams are still fundraising through the end of May. So this is a really fun way to support our programming and the watch sites directly. So you can donate at hawkmigration.org. And if you're not an HMA member, we encourage you to join our kettle and support the work that we do for raptors and the hawk watching community. So thanks everybody for joining today, for tuning in, and we hope to see you again next month. Thanks again, JF, and everybody have a great day.